From Unity of Houston, Texas, this is the Awakened Life with Reverend Howard Caesar. Unity is a non-denominational spiritual community providing a positive, practical, and progressive approach to Christianity. Let's join the service in progress now with Reverend Howard Caesar.
Christmas is a great time, and I know it's always fun to be around the kids, and you can see certain shows and programs and what have you. And my wife Diane was telling me she saw where a little girl was, I guess about 5 or 6 years old, was being asked, so tell us about Santa Claus. And the little girl went, well, you know, he has this humongous sleigh, and he has all these reindeers and all these presents for all around the world, and the reindeer pull the sleigh, and he comes to their house, and he slides down your chimney, kind of like a robber. But he's not. That's the end of the story. It was like, her analogy was so cute. So I would say that, you know, all of us have a birthday once a year, don't we? And it comes around whether we like it or not. And it comes at the same time every year. And how we celebrate that birthday may vary from, you know, among us. And I think sometimes when we're at a younger age, there's more hype and excitement and anticipation around a birthday. And then maybe as we get older, sometimes it seems like, well, it's just another birthday, you know. And so I say that because, unfortunately, sometimes people who have experienced a number of Christmases, it may come to feel like, well, it's just another Christmas. And so we really want to get past that, if that is going on for you. And it happens, you know, for some people, they have different energies going on. There's the, you know, the up and the down side of everything, the bright side and the dark side and what have you. And so there are those who really love Christmas and can't wait for it to come, and they love putting up all the decorations and doing all the things that go along with Christmas. And then there are others that sometimes may dread it. And they just don't get into it. Or there are certain years or certain times that we just, we're just not feeling it. And that's okay. We just bless one another in that process. But it's important to help you along to know that really there is a light that simply is intended to go on in all of us. And it's not necessarily all the outer things. There is something internal that we are to engage with. That basically it's the birth of the Christ. It's a historical event of Jesus Christ's birth, of course, a very powerful event, but it's also the birth of the Christ Spirit in us, so that in a sense, as we're celebrating the birthday of Jesus, the actual historical birthday, we're also celebrating each year our own birthday or rebirthing of that light of God, and the acknowledgement and the engagement with it, and the integration of that light. And so it requires then some focus and some sense of being with that. We, in many of the ancient texts, all refer to God as light. That God comes into our lives as light. And it's interesting that the light can never be put out. No matter how dark things may appear, it comes into being. And the gift of Christmas can sometimes be the magic of how the light shows up in our lives and how we can lean on into that light. And it comes sometimes in unique and wonderful ways, almost magical ways. There are many stories, of course, that exist around that. I want to tell you one story that actually was an incident that took place here at the church, and it had to do with one of our staff Christmas parties. And this particular year, a few years back, we were having our staff Christmas party on the premises in a larger hall, which you may be familiar with as the Wallet Hall on the campus. And we did that because we had a lot of children on the staff of the parents, and we wanted to bring the children that year to be part of it. So we held it here, and one of the things that we did was to have every parent bring a gift for their child, so that there would be a gift opening for them, because as part of our staff Christmas, we always have, you know, a gift with a certain amount of dollars and not to exceed, and then we pass the gift around, and like you do at some of your staff parties. So we were doing that. So anyway, we had our meal, and we had some entertainment, we had a juggler, we sang some carols, and then it came time for the gifts. So we had the kids gather around, and all the parents who brought a gift, a wrapped gift for their child, gave them, and they were all happy. And there was one couple, set of parents, who either hadn't heard or forgot, but they didn't have a gift for their 8-year-old child, little Mark. And so here he was, everyone else opened a gift. He didn't have one. Everyone was excited, tearing stuff apart, and the parents felt horrible, of course, because their little boy had to sit there, and Mark himself was really bummed out, and he was sitting on their lap, and he was really sad. And so anyway, the next thing we had to go to was the gift exchange of the adults. And so it's where I think back then it was $15 or $20 not to exceed, and to bring an adult gift and wrap it in some way. And so we formed chairs in a circle, and we put all the gifts in the center, and we had people pick out of a bag a number, and there were probably 35 or 40 gifts there in the center of this circle of chairs. And so I said, Mark is so sad that rather than go to number one, let's just give this couple, these parents who forgot to bring a gift for their child, let's have them go first and have their son Mark pick out the gift for them. Get it? All right. So Mark is kind of happy because now he gets to go to the pile and get a gift, even though they're all for adults. And so he's snooping around it, and he's looking like, he goes all the way around, and he's looking and looking. Finally, he settles on one, brings it back to his parents, and they begin to unwrap it. And actually, Mark unwraps it. And you wouldn't believe this, but when he opens it up, it is a child's electric rock and roll guitar. And it had batteries along, and it had a microphone, and it was the perfect gift for an 8-year-old child or boy. And so his eyes lit up, and his mouth dropped open, and he's jumping up and down when he sees it, and the whole room lit up, a whole staff. The other kids were happy for him. It was marvelous, and it was like the light came on in that room. The light of just love and giving and receiving and Christmas spirit. And it actually was a way in which the light came into a dark moment in this little boy's life, And one of the songs that I've always loved is I Believe. I believe for every drop of rain that falls, a flower grows. I believe that somewhere in the darkest night, a candle glows. So I believe that no matter how dark a situation may be, there is always a candle that glows. That candle may come through another person, that may come through a situation, it may come through a coincidence, a sequence of happenings, something. But the candle always glows. And that's something to remember. That's a part of Christmas, because Christmas is about the light. And it's remembering that it's about the light, and that the light is always with you, and the light never goes out, and the light is the light of spirit. God is the light of the world. And Jesus said, you are a light in the world. And so it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And so, we're all here, and much of the world, of course, is celebrating the birth of Jesus Christ and joining in that celebration. And the impact of that, in addition to the uniqueness of Jesus' birth and the miracle of that birth, is really the impact that his life had going forward, his ministry, really. It's what he went on to do, what he went on to be, what he went on to teach, the difference that he made, and the universal principles of love and oneness, and beyond all the attributes of God, and the relationship with the divine that he taught us all to have. All of those things are universal laws and principles that really have stuck and made a difference. And Jesus was really the vehicle of that light, that love, and that message of truth that was there to set us free. He modeled it. He said, follow me. He said, the things that I do, you can do also, and even greater things than these if you believe. He said, I am the light of the world, but you are also the light of the world, and you're here to let that light shine. And he showed us how. And so that's what we're here about, is to understand that we've come into this world to be a light, and that basically, you know, Jesus, his name was Jesus. When he was born as a child, he was given the name Jesus, but his last name, as you know, was not Christ. Okay, Christ was given to him later, and meant, you know, Christ, Christos meant the anointed of God, Messiah, deliverer, and so there is that was in the man Jesus that was divine, that was anointed, that would deliver one from those dark moments and dark times, and that we all have Christ in us. We all have the divinity of God in us. The Apostle Paul said, Christ in you, your hope of glory. We all have that. Paul said we are joint heirs with Christ. We are all heir unto that same Spirit, that same light, the same spark of the divine, the same divine blueprint. And that's something for us to learn. Now, we're not all expressing it. We're all in the process of maturing, growing, and expanding, and understanding the truth of who we are, and then seeking to be it. That's our life path. That's the journey. We fall down now and again, but we get back up. And remember, we're a light again. We go through dark times and remember that there always is a candle that is glowing, and we can look to it, we can find it. And so there are those people that have demonstrated in their lives that they have looked to the light of God in them for strength. They have looked to the light of God in them to deliver them through dark times. And some of you may be going through a dark time. Maybe you've just been through one. Maybe you're whatever. But understand that no matter what it is, in the darkest night, there is a candle that glows. There's a person that was an inspiration to me and demonstrated this, and certainly there's been many, but this is a person who was a congregant, and she was in our congregation for a number of years, and I knew a little bit about her. She was this pleasant and kind and delightful lady, but there was a lot I didn't know. And when she passed on at age 75, some years back, I learned a whole lot more about her that made me all the more inspired by who she was, the life she had led, and how she had really matured the Christ nature, the light of God in her. This lady, her name, some of you may know her actually, her name was Nita Weil. And she lived 53 of her lives, 53 years of her 75 years of life, she was unable to walk. She wasn't born that way. She grew up in California with her mother as a single parent, and when she was a senior in high school, she went to live with her father in New Orleans. And at age 20, she got married, and she had 2 children right away. And at age 22, she contracted polio. And the next 7 years were spent in hospitals in New Orleans. And over that 7 years in being in hospitals, she lost her marriage. She lost the ability to raise her children and be there as they were growing up. And she went through a dark night. And it was like she had to figure out, what is the purpose of my life now that this has come upon me? And somehow or another along the way, after those 7 years, she got a call from a Dr. Spencer. And Dr. Spencer, whether you realize it or not, he was the founder of TIRR, T-I-R-R, the Institute of Rehabilitation and Research Hospital here in Houston. And Dr. Spencer somehow knew of her and invited her to come and work for him in Houston, and this was actually in the year 1959, and be a receptionist to greet people there at the hospital. And so she accepted the position, not knowing whether she was strong enough to even be in her wheelchair for 8 hours and greet people, but she did it. And she learned that she could, from all of this, she learned that she could live independently, that she could earn a salary, that she could have her own apartment, that she could have some on-duty care with her to support, but she discovered that she could start her life over. She could have a purpose and meaning. And she went on to become the director of volunteers at TIRR. And she worked there for 43 years before retiring in 2002. And in her work, she touched the lives of thousands of people, had a huge impact with just the aura of energy that this lady brought, all from her wheelchair. And she developed a volunteer corps there of over 200 people strong. She had the idea of creating the corner store, as it's known at Tyr. She also formed the auxiliary as the fundraising arm of the hospital. She was instrumental in having a chapel built there, which was dedicated to her. She was instrumental in starting MetroLift for the disabled. She was president of the Texas Polio Survivors Association. She received numerous honors and awards, too numerous to mention, but one of them being the Governor's Award. So she was a gift to this world, and she got people to help her and assist her accomplish many, many projects, and she would will it into being. She would find a way, and all the people who knew her, and I experienced so many people, they just would rave about how special she was and what an extraordinary soul and person she was, and aura, and how everyone spoke of her as an inspiration. She didn't let her condition get her down. It didn't let that keep her from being a light in the world and going on to really make a difference. And so even she liked painting and sculpturing, and even though she was missing several fingers on her left hand, she loved to do that, and she loved to paint birds that were flying in the air, and it represented the idea of one day, her being free to fly and move from that wheelchair. And she believed in God, and she was here many, many Sundays, and she believed that there was a part of her that was already whole and complete, that the spirit of her was perfect. She lived from that knowing, and that she knew when she left this world that she'd be free of those physical limitations. But she was this great example, again, of a person who looked at the Christ within her, to the anointed aspect of her that is anointed of God, beyond physical form, and was in the process of maturing that Christ, that light that wanted to shine. And so, this is an amazing story to me, and she remains an inspiration to me. But it's back to the idea that spirit has always been referred to, one way or another, as light. The Spirit of God is light and brings light to whatever darkness there is. And sometimes as we are celebrating the holidays, there was a time a few years back, hopefully it's not a big deal anymore, where a big hubbub was made about whether or not it was correct or not, or okay or not, to say Happy Holidays instead of Merry Christmas, and that it just was unchristian if you said Happy Holidays. And it was kind of silly because really there are other holidays going on, and other people that are celebrating Hanukkah and different things like that. And so there's nothing wrong with saying Happy Holidays as well. The whole world is not a Christian world. And also when Jesus said, I am the light of the world and you are the light of the world, Christianity didn't even exist. And he was saying that to all humanity, to everyone. And that all of what Jesus taught embraced everyone. And so that's an important part of Christmas for me, is the idea that we're really all one. And when we put on our light or mature that divine anointed aspect of our being, it's not exclusive in any way. It's all embracing. We're really all one, and we reach out to one. That the light shows itself in so many different ways and is so sacred. That essentially, again, somewhere in the darkest night, a candle always glows. There's one last story I'd like to share, and if you don't know by now, I like to share stories. Because stories carry a point, if at all possible. And this is another true story. It goes back a number of years, and it was told by Betty Gerling, and it was basically her sharing of her most memorable Christmas. And it's a wonderful story, really, and it goes back a number of years. She was 11 years old at the time, her most memorable, and she said that her father and mother and she had lived in Ohio up until the time she was 11, And then they moved to a homestead in Nebraska on the plains, spread out, really wild out there. And their first winter there on the plains of Alaska was cold and bitter and very lonely because they lived on a little farm, and the nearest neighbor was a long ways away across fields, and they were vacated farms as well. Nobody lived there. And so she was used to having friends and going to church and having activities, and now she had no friends, nothing, out in the middle of nowhere. And so it was Christmas, she said, and her father was going to, and this is back when they were still riding horses, and so her father was going to ride his horse, Thunder, into town. It took a long, it was a long ride in and back and what have you, but he was going to get candles and ornaments and so forth that he had promised Betty that they would use to decorate the Christmas tree. So she was all excited, and that this was a big day for her of celebrating. So he saddled the horse and he took off, and shortly after he left, Betty and her mother noticed that there was a wagon that pulled up at a distant ranch there, and that they were unpacking furniture, so somebody was moving in. So Betty's mom then quickly baked some bread fresh, and she went over, the mom did, and delivered the bread. And when her mother came back, it was with a little girl that was about Betty's age, and her name was Sarah. And so they were shy at first, but then Betty started talking about, my dad, he's went to, ride into town, it's a long ride, and he's coming back with all the ornaments, and we're going to be dressing up our tree and decorating and all of that. And the other little girl was kind of quiet, and finally she said, "We're Jewish." Oh, Betty had never known a Jewish girl before, and so she felt a little silly babbling on about these candles and celebration and ornaments and whatnot. And so she said to this little girl, "Oh, well, never mind, but I guess you have special holidays too, don't you?" And little Sarah said, "Oh yes, we have Hanukkah. That's our Feast of Lights." And suddenly she jumped up and said, "With all the moving, we've forgotten it's the 5th day, and I don't even know where we packed the menorah." And she ran off home. And Betty and her mom were left kind of wondering, what's a menorah? And so it was about that time the snow began to fall, and it snowed all afternoon, and it grew heavier and heavier. And at 6 p.m. that evening, her father was still not back. And there on the plains, the word blizzard was a very frightening word that some of the locals had said, where one of the farmers was found frozen not that far from his barn because a blizzard had come, and he just, in the blizzard and the dark, could not find his way back to a house or barn, and had died there. And so they were concerned. So 6 o'clock grew to 11 o'clock that night when Betty was put to bed. Her father still was not back. And it was truly a blizzard now. And at dawn, when she woke up, her dad was not back. And the storm had quieted and the sun had come out. But finally, they heard shouts, and they raced to the door. And there were, coming through the drifts of snow, was her father and her friends Sarah and Sarah's parents. And they came in, and they all gathered around the kitchen stove, and they were getting warm, and the father began to share what had happened. And he said, it was a miracle. That's simply what it was. It was a miracle. And he had gotten lost in the storm, and the road had been completely obliterated, and in the dark of night and the snow blowing, he could see nothing. And so he had to depend upon his horse's instincts for guidance. Finally, his horse, Thunder, could not go on. And so her father said that he was nearly frozen there on the horse, and the horse was just about kaput and finally stopped. And the horse just stopped, so he got off, and as best he could in his frozen state, he began to lead the horse, Thunder. And he led this horse on for a number of hours more, searching, walking, looking, and he was close to exhaustion, close to giving up. And suddenly, through the swirling snow off to a side, he saw tiny pinpoints of light. And so he led Thunder toward those lights, praying the whole way that those lights wouldn't go out, that he was not imagining. And he found himself to be eventually at this Jewish family's home, cabin, and that they had just moved into hours before. And so he said that there in the window was this great candlestick, like none he'd ever seen before. And it held 9 candles, but 6 of them were lit. And Sarah chimed in, "That was our menorah, for Hanukkah, the Feast of Lights. I put it there in the window because I hoped that you, Betty, could see it, maybe, all the way to your farmhouse." But it was there for her father, and it was the light that led him through the night. And so they gathered around, they had breakfast, and just before having breakfast, the father had them all bow their heads and said, "Almighty God, we thank you for all the blessings of this sacred holiday season." And that's what it is. It is a sacred holiday season. It is the birth of Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ talked about the light, but he talked about the light that is in all of us, the true light that enlightens every man coming into the world. It's in you and it's in me. You may be facing a blizzard. You may not be able to see your way to the light that is of God in you, but it's there. It's there. And so press on and continue to affirm that there is a light in you that will allow you to experience a dimension of what Christmas was really meant to be, where you feel connected with people, the world, family, whomever. It's a shift that takes place when you really know that the light of God that is in you is the same light that is in all, and it's everywhere. And that no matter how dark the darkest night may be, that there is a candle that glows for you, if you will but look, if you will but see. This season, whatever blizzard you may face, you make your way through it and become the light that God created you to be. Merry Christmas.
Thank you for joining us for today's message. We invite you to be with us again next Sunday. Unity is inclusive, welcoming people of all walks of life in dignity and love. We believe that love, strength, and goodness dwells within you. May we all live in unity with God, humanity, and all of God's creation. And remember, as Reverend Caesar says, life is meant to be good.
Hi, I'm Howard Caesar, Senior Minister at Unity of Houston. And the Christmas season is upon us. And one of the things we do here at Unity of Houston is to celebrate the historical birth of Jesus Christ, but also the birth of the Christ within all of us. And so if you do not have a church home or a place to go to celebrate Christmas Eve candlelighting services, I personally invite you, your family, your friends to come join us for a wonderful experience here at Unity, where we have great music, some of your favorite Christmas songs, a brief inspirational message, and every individual gets to light their own unique candle. And so our services are at 4, 6, and 8 p.m. We hope that you might choose one of them and come join us and light a candle to the world and truly experience the joy and the magic of Christmas.